Alright fellas, it's time to make the Kove my own. So a couple things, got some parts in, gonna be tearing down the bike tonight, and just wanted to give you guys the before, look at the parts, and then something to look forward to when it's all done. So right now I'm running the Trail Tech, and on the stock polymer tower. And just the way that this tower, it has some flex, and especially trying to mount something off the top of the tower with it like a ram ball, there's just way too much movement, so that's really distracting, and you know, it's just a matter of time before it snaps off. So what I did was went with the tower that is on Uncle Wing's shop, and so I didn't go with the high dollar polymer tower, but I did go with the more expensive than the AliExpress one. The difference in weight between this one and the polymer was only like a pound, so I believe this is 4.5 pounds, and the polymer one, or I'm sorry, the carbon one was 3.5 pounds. So this is like a quarter of the price, so we'll go with this one and see if it has more rigidity. So in addition, when we're talking about electronics, putting the tower on there, we're going to be wiring in a fuse box, just like a central hub box. That way everything goes through this, and you can see if anything has problems, it'll be easily recognizable by the LED that shows the blown fuse. So I'll be mounting this up. Got just a generic wiring harness, so this will go back to the battery and have just a one main switch that will power up the box, and then all my lights will be run off the box separately. And so I have a three panel switch that are going to be on 4 different things. So we got the light bar that is kind of the stock aftermarket accessory that mounts right up underneath here, and I went with these little guys, super lightweight, but they have a couple different light settings on them. You can either have a fill light or a beam, so those are pretty trick. The tower itself is going to have these bad boys. Again, super bright, and these also have that same option of either having a fill light or a beam. And so these ones will be in the tower behind the windshield right here. And just to give you an idea, this is the taller windshield. So with the aftermarket tower, I wanted to make sure that all my devices were going to be covered and not sticking up higher. I can kind of show you real quick the difference in the height between the stock one and the slightly higher one. It's really not much bigger at all. 1.5 inches, maybe 2 inches at most taller, so not much. Next, I think that's all the electronics that we're going to be hooking up. Is the water tank. I went with this bad boy. I think that's a great idea to have. I believe it's 84 ounces of water. Obviously it's not going to be good to drink, like yummy, refreshing water, but I think what also it might do is fill that space between the skid plate gap in your frame. So it might actually give a little bit of rigidity under there to the skid plate. So yeah, I went with this guy. I like that idea of having extra reserve water. Show you real quick on the bike something else. We went with the SXS skid plate, and as you can see, I've already taken some good hits, and I wanted to get the skid plate on there quickly before any major damage was done. So haven't been able to test it out really, other than just riding down pretty mellow gravel trails, and it's doing a good job at reducing that loud deflection that you would hear when rocks would get stuck in your tread and then come out and you hear it hit that skid, that carbon skid plate. This is much softer feeling, and it doesn't have that sound like a rock just went through your skid plate. So that's that. Lastly is the Recluse. Went ahead and put the Recluse in already, and I went with the low RPM engagement springs on that, and I think that's not going to be a good setup for this particular bike because of how jumpy and not smooth off idle this bike is, especially if you don't drag that clutch and get the RPMs up. If you really are sloppy about it and let the clutch out when the RPMs are too low, you can just kind of hear that hesitation. It's something to do with the back pressure and the cat in there. I think with a free-flowing exhaust and a better ECU tune, that'll all go away. And I think that would be a good setup, but I think I'm gonna have to take out the Recluse and put in the medium setting springs in there so that it works great as long as you drag the clutch and use the clutch as normal. But if you have the clutch all the way out and try to start from a dead standstill with the throttle, it will actually it almost intensifies that jerkiness. So I mean, in conclusion, yeah, I'm gonna make this bike my own. I've already started putting the Tusk D-Sport tires on there, and the Recluse obviously just need to mess around with the engagement springs. The knockoff Scots, it's pretty decent. It's important that you do some extra venting on these bikes, take off the charcoal canister, and either just put one of these on either one or like this, just to make sure that these tanks vent and it's not just a straight hose that's gonna allow the fuel to just dump out all of your skid plate and run down your frame, because that's initially what happened before I had one of these on here. Anything else people have been talking about? Don't really need to worry about handguards. You can run whatever. There's plenty of room here for the handguards. The rear sprocket, I went with the dirt tricks, went up 2 teeth in the rear. And again, I would reiterate, do not use that aftermarket red AliExpress guard on there. The bolt is way too long, and it just puts too much torque on this. If anything was to hit that, it's just gonna break this mount off right there. So chuck that in the trash. The rack required a bunch of additional drilling to get the holes to line up, so that's pretty ugly, but I put a big washer on there and it covers it up. And the functionality of it though is really good. I think that's a necessity if you're going to be running bags at all. So the other thing that I've noticed is your feet just absolutely, or boots, annihilate this area. So I'm thinking about doing some clear film there, because it's just going to be ruined the first ride I go out. So anybody got any questions, feel free to drop them down in the box below. And yeah, I guess the only other thing I see here in my super messy workbench is I'm gonna try the aluminum, or I'm sorry, the mesh filter instead of the paper one. And instead of the Takomoto, the $14 Amazon fork wrap, turn signal, and DRL. These things are sick. Super easy to install, and add some extra light to your bike and turn signal. So, and then with the Zeta hand guards, they have these turn signals as well that fit right in this slot. So yeah, bike's gonna be super tricked out when I'm done. And yeah, loving the Kove. Liking the new graphics a lot better than the stock ones. I don't know how you feel about the stock ones, but I thought they were horrendous. But any questions, feel free to drop them down below, and stay tuned for the fully built Kove and the report on how all the parts and accessories go installing them, especially the tower. That's what I'm most excited about. So thanks, guys. Think about subscribing.